Hey everyone, I'm Tassinix, and welcome to Plotting and Scheming, the Grand Arena focused podcast centered about the top 100 of Kyber 1 for Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. I am joined by my regular co-hosts Dagger, TJ, Fatal, and Sasha Aisha will pop in and out as time allows. He had a phone call, and he'll join us as best as he can. But gentlemen, great to be with you here today. I had a one for the record books. So, back up in the top bracket, had 3 real matches, won all 3. And now I get to duke it out in the top bracket again. But it was a long time since I've been up in bracket 1, and I think this is maybe the second time ever I've swept that top bracket. So, momentous occasion. How about you, Dagger?
Well, first off, it's less impressive for you to say your own accomplishments than for us to fawn all over your PNS and going 3-0 in the top bracket. So I appreciate you sounding more pretentious than you needed to be with that. I went 3-0. I did not fight in the top bracket, but I did fight a bunch of interesting defenses. We probably won't get into them, but if you want to see some of them, Vertigo is a really smart guy, and I fought him in the last round of my last week. So if you want to see some of the clever defenses he set, or you can go look at those. But we probably won't discuss them because we probably won't see them again.
Oh, yeah? Why is that?
You saw them. They're not common.
They are not common.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
TJ, how about you? What you got to say? How'd the week go?
It was a rough week, man. Some by my own design, some by others. I know we'll go into it. Went 1 and 2, and I squeaked the 1. We're talking, I don't know how much clinchier your butt can be to squeak the 1, but it was against one of our listeners, Mini GK, and then fought Bestron, great guy. So it was a good learning week. I just hate learning after week 1.
Fair. Well, hopefully you'll just sweep week 3 here. We'll see how it goes.
Oblivion is my as my round 1. So right into the head. I will continue to call myself the working man's GAC dude.
All right. Fair. Fatal, how about you, sir? How'd the week go?
1 and 2. Yeah, it's defense is doing quite well, but the offense is not something I really worked on, and has proven to be something that you can't really wing as easily. So I don't know. I'm not really going to change my defense. I feel like it's where I want it to be, so it's just going to be a matter of trying to figure things out for week 3.
Yeah, I remember tuning in and seeing a couple of the fights that went sour on you. You think there's anything that you're still scratching your head about here for week 3, or you feel like you've got it solved where you're going to be fine and still basically leave the same type of defense from last week?
I mean, I'm not changing the defense regardless, just because if it's giving me what I want, then
this is happening. Yeah, okay. It's not what I want. It's not what they want. This is just happening.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. Like, if you're not trying to post your 11 best teams, then you just end up being a cheese player, because then every single value trade breaks. Like, I don't understand how people medium post these days, because it's like, so you posted like 4 GLs, and then I'm fighting your like Iden and Grievous for some reason. Like, what are we doing here? You gotta make up your mind. I'm not saying that like medium posting is dead, but it does kind of feel like the worst of both worlds.
Yeah.
Shut up, Fatal. Shut up. Stop saying these things. I'm a medium poster. You're offending me.
Well, okay. Well, the thing I'll say for medium poster is like front wall gambit shit, where it's like, okay, I got 4 good teams to try to like pressure you, and then once you get past that, it's probably like an efficiency game. That's my perception.
You still called it out of what it is, man. I'm not. I just get to say things to be a dick, but this is where I was like, your round 3, as obviously the super heavy poster guy here, was still your one statement that I took away that was a key thing, was even us medium posters, whatever you want to call the numbers is, and that's what this season goes back to, is the fine line of, can you post enough to do the work? And that can be just one team that differentiates the win and the loss. So when you called it out, it's like, yes, even as I'll call myself a medium poster, I tried to post more in which is what I would need it to do, which would make the defense work. But then now I underdid it on the offense because of it. So when you called out, it's like then I wanted to change. It's like I have to make adjustments because I want to set that extra team. I want to set the extra piece, but then I'm now short, and then I lose by the one fight or whatever.
Yeah, it's all my work went into defense, and it's fine that like my work didn't go into offense, so I suffer on offense a little bit. Like if I have 60 banners worth of bleed, that's plenty of margin to work within. Yeah. And the majority of the seasons, it's been fine enough that I didn't really need to hard prep. But yeah, even if my opponents are posting 11 super teams, we're still in kind of a super team meta where teams like Ray are putting enough pressure on me that I can't just wing that shit. Then yeah, I kind of what he said is ideally you don't want to have a learning experience week 2. Ideally you want to know where you sit, but for better or worse, not all of my matches are putting up compelling teams. So I'll have one scary fight week 1 and be like, that was unpleasant. And then just 2 whatever fights. And then week 2 rolls around and it's so you got it out, right? And I'm like, no, I only played that once actually. I have no fucking clue what to think about this. I just lose it again. It's I don't know. Yeah, Starkiller versus Ray is something I'm still probably gonna end up poking at just because I don't know, things move a lot more smoothly when he can just be the guy that does that. But I don't know, I juice Starkiller up to 341 speed. All right, motherfuckers, if we're doing this, we're fucking doing this. All right.
Man, my guy stays the same, but now he's got more engine, bitch.
Yeah. I mean, at some point, I really thought about it. It's my Starkiller was on the shittiest offense mods you've ever seen at 315 speed, and I literally gained offense back switching to good speed set mods with good percent offense. And it's
nice.
I literally gained 500 offense and 25 speed in doing this. That I was just yeah.
Best of all worlds.
I probably should have realized that this was a possibility.
Well, let me ask you this, because you said that. Did you go to other places? Because you said you were going to tweak your other offensive teams. Did you find other ones? Because you said you wanted to look at Wampa. You said there are other ones that you wanted to look at. Did you look at other characters man, this is some 2017 shit?
I didn't end up looking at Wampa. I probably should have. No, I don't know. I started to do an audit, but I looked at my gas and I was like, no, these are okay. These are fairly modern. I guess I'm just kind of salty run backing this week. I don't know. I'm boosting Starkiller and be this will solve all of my problems.
Yeah. All right.
But to your point about the mid posting, if you're not trying to like you said about the front wall, if you're not trying to post a bunch of here's some puzzles, or here's each one of these has 2 or 3 teams that work really well, and you have to guess what's in the back. And if you guess wrong, I maybe manufacture a drop or 5 to 8 banners of bleed. But outside of that, like you said, that's the biggest. That's been my biggest thing this month so far. Is yeah, you can one shot my entire defense. That's fine. I'm just going to do it for 10 to 15 banners better than you because you're going to pick one counter wrong based on my front wall. And that's it.
Yeah.
I completely agree with if you're not willing to commit your entire roster to defense, don't half-ass it because you're just going to punish yourself on offense. I saw the last round you had, Fatal, where your opponent put up a high or a mid to high 1700s number. I'm just man.
Yeah, it was a
wiggle room. You didn't have a lot of wiggle room on that.
I mean, minus 60 pre banner tax or whatever is that's plenty of wiggle room for you to work with. I just did not have answers prepared.
Fair. All right, guys, we do have an agenda to dig into. Let's start up the meta-analysis. First up, let's talk briefly about Balin team. So, we did some experimentation, some discussion about this last week. I just wanted to say, I didn't update this comment here. That was from last week. But I wanted to bring up that I've seen some folks get Gungans to work very effectively. I've seen others choke on it. I will say this. You're thinking, oh man, if I see a Fugitive Omega team here and I know there's maybe a Balin behind it, or if they're side by side and I'm deciding maybe how I want to apply my Gungans, I would say that I looked into this. Gungans against Balin. The worst matchup for the Gungans is going to be if it's the two mercenary, Bad Batch in there. That is shown to be the worst. And that is, of course, having the mercenary Hunter Kron, all of the fun details there. But what I will say is I personally fought one using a set 20 turn meter level 3, but very high armor penetration, like over 200%, chunk of crit damage besides. So very offensively oriented. Now, I saw a lot of set 20 Gungans getting done that had the Ampag level 3, so max health damage on 3. That, it's a default solid choice you're thinking with Gungans, but I did find it really useful to have that turn meter preload. I thought it just made the fight a dunk for me. And again, I fought a couple different versions of it this week, with or without
the very worst version for Gungans to fight is Hondo L3.
Okay,
according
I didn't
to
encounter
GG.
that. Good to know.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. It's like,
I still remember that fight. That fight, if you don't get the death marks and all that, you just sit there. I remember the tree stump, and that was horrible to fight with Gungans.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll
yeah,
keep that in mind.
But check this test. Check this. When I say it's the worst, it's 52% versus Wrecker Hunter.
Dude.
It's 50% versus L3.
So I put this filter on
I'm not out here
screen.
trying to say that like you're wrong. It's just like, yeah, they're both, yeah.
Yeah, I applied this filter, if you can see on screen. So I just sorted by just the Balin trio, put on Division 1, minimum relics for the attacker and the defender of 7, just to weed out any, Relic 5 attempt Gungan teams that might not have had the oomph to really attempt this anyway. And then I filtered on the Kron, having the turn meter level 3, which you would think would be important for our light side Bad Batch that would get tucked in, and the level 6, of course. I mean, I might as well throw on the 9. We all know and it is.
Yeah.
But the point here being that I also tacked on the Omicrons, and that's how we came up with this, right? So it's not a ton of data, but this seemed to choke. And I saw the Krons. There's a few different Krons here, set 19, set 20. But what I'm saying is it might be intuitive to run with the Amp Ag level 3. But if you're of the mind to try this in week 3, and if you had any struggle with it, this is to everybody here on the panel and to the listeners, I would say try it with a turn meter level 3 and see how you do, because it felt very much in my hands both times I did it. Now, that being said, I did not encounter this L3 Hondo team comp that's supposedly very dangerous.
I will say this. I think that if you're fighting against Balin, and I got to use Jabba versus one with turn meter, that was scary. I think to Taz's point, if you're going to put the Ampeg there, it looks really good on paper, but it allows your opponent to actually like make do meaningful things, right? Like if that had been an Ampeg that I had fought, like I would have taken the first move and then the second, third, and fourth moves of the game. But because they had the turn meter, they took the first, or I think Jabba went, and then they took like the next 6. So. Mm-hmm. To Tash's point, and the same with Reva as well. GI goes, and then your whole team goes, or GI goes, then Balin goes, then you go. Right? It's one of those kind of things where it's like, I think the turn meter is much better, even if you're not doing the Merc one. If you're doing Kira, for example, I think if you're doing Kira like L3, I think that the light side's better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or the turn meter is better, right? I just think the turn meter is better, even though it doesn't look like it, even though the Ampeg looks so good on paper.
Sure. Now, Sasha, I see you just joined back with us. Before we follow up with you about, how your week went, we were just discussing here at the very start of meta-analysis about Balin teams, and I was just making the mention that, I saw the fork a couple different times this week of somebody offering me Fugitive Omega. And, am I going to try and Gungans this? And if it works, it's a 65. And if it doesn't, you get blown out pretty badly, pretty quickly. Or was I going to pocket it and save it for Balin? And I'm just gonna say we were talking about how it actually worked pretty well on Balin, but it does look unreliable, I think, for Fugitive Omega. So I was glad that I used JML there myself. I don't know if you or TJ Fatal had any other comments about Balin.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll tell you, going into the week, so this is not further informed with the new data off the second week, but one thing I felt like was parsed out of the first week's data was that if somebody set Balin with Wrecker and Hunter in the Hunter Cron, I wasn't comfortable with a lot of my counters. I really wanted to save my Bane for that. And I found that kind of pigeonholed me a little or limited some of my offensive flexibility because I was a little scared of that combo. I have not gone through the data from the second week to see what that may be vulnerable to, but I was ready to take Gungans against like any other form of Balin. Myself, I held Balin for offense because I wanted to set some other stuff and found that squad to be like super powerful. I think I used it against Ray, but and to your point on Fugitive Omega, like I ended up being in a position, except for like the first match of the week, um, was really tight. And for me, it just came down to I couldn't afford to drop, and I ended up having one drop in my very last battle. So I used JML there against Fugitive Omega, but in another match, I just ended up like trying to throw a few things to see what was going to work, and against a full new Bad Batch squad, and was pretty impressed with it. Like, I don't think I tried Gungans, but I saw data was decent but imperfect on it. But like that was one that just felt like it kind of called for JML. If you couldn't afford to mess around, if you weren't getting holds.
Yeah, I will say I did actually get the odd clear on a Fugitive Omega with Malgus, but and it's one of those where I feel like I finished with under a minute and a half. So you might say, oh, that's kind of like average, average, maybe even good for a clear on something like that. But it's one of those fights where it's anxiety inducing because, of course, you have to kill each character twice with that mechanic saving them from death just the first time. And it takes a while. It takes a very long time to get that first kill. Once you get it, it feels like a dominoes thing. You start to move through it from there. But I didn't feel comfortable enough to risk that. I mean, I set Malgus on defense in my final round versus Aesop, so I didn't even have that as an option. But even if I had, I think I probably would have gone with JML anyway. So got to be really careful with these non-GL counters you might take on that team, especially since we're now about to be seeing set 21's Datacron come in. There's a few different Bad Batch options, but you can expect it's going to be a better version of the team than what we've seen so far. So, caution is well advised. But before we proceed further here in the meta-analysis, how was your week, Sasha? How'd it go?
Sure. So this it was a rough one. I had, as I mentioned, it really came down to, yeah, I think the week really kind of pivoted on one particular battle, and I faced Rockstar in the first round. Very good match. Honestly, I was really pleasantly surprised with how well I was doing on offense, all the way through to the very last battle, and all I needed to do was get a one shot of Riva against Great Mothers, and the data is fantastic on this, like 96% success rate based on how I'd filtered it. And I dropped. I lost that, and I was really surprised to have lost it, but did, and that cost me that match. And then I lost the second round, and then won the third, but the third was like a Rhodium non-match. So I went 1-2, but to be honest, everything really kind of like pivoted on that one particular battle, which was disappointing.
I'm really glad that you talked about this because now, first of all, thank you for sharing.
Still feeling.
And now moving back into meta analysis, this was actually the next note I wanted to cover on Great Mothers. Last week, I myself got blown out running. Let me see what you did here. I think I also went with a set 20 like you did. I think I also went with turn meter. I went with the very strongest offensive stats that I could muster on this, and it did not work. This time I tried something a little different. I went in I want to say with a set 19, 25% dark side turn meter, very high armor penetration. So, okay, fine. I have something to answer their opener because I believe they also ran the same thing like your opponent did here. But the difference is from last week to this week, I started with Torture on Morgan instead of Ability Block. And that made a significant difference. There's a couple different ways to go about the fight. A lot of folks try and get around Morgan and then kill her last so that you don't give her death benefit out to the allies. Okay, fine. It's often easy enough for me to just rip right through her and go straight after who I like. And that made a big difference doing that Torture. I think I'd have a renewed confidence doing it this week because that was a dunk, man. That was, after struggling so hard in week 1 with that, I liked it. So if you hadn't tried it that way, I'd give it a go.
Yeah, I will.
Any other notes from you guys? I know I kind of pinged off of Sasha here real quick, but anything I might have missed from you guys on Balin and, of course, here on Great Mothers? Thoughts from fighting them this week?
I fought a zombie one, and that it prolonged the fight to where losing Malgus was going to be inevitable.
Yeah, almost 4 minutes.
So I think
here.
if you know your opponent will Malgus it and you're just trying to manufacture some bleed, I think taking that fight from like a 63 to 65 down to like a 59 to 61 is a pretty easy thing, especially if you're already putting Mare in there. I think it's pretty easy to just sub in Zombie because I feel like it just adds some amount of inevitability to your Malgus dying to the Doomed.
Yeah, because in reality, you were just getting taunt juggled, right? That's the issue.
Yeah, I mean, I was still going to win. It was just going to take forever, but that time it took let the Doomed do its job.
Yep, makes sense.
Outside of that, I've been seeing more and more people pulling Great Mothers off defense because it has so many applications on offense, including apparently Balin. I haven't looked that up, but I was talking with somebody about how they used it versus Balin Mercs.
Okay, that's kind of cool.
So if that has legs, and again, we're going into week 3, so we won't know till next season, right? So I'm curious to see how that plays out. But then again, we still see people setting Saw on defense, but this is just the world we live in. But I guess to talk about the Balin team, if you're putting Hunter and Wrecker there, what does your Fugitive Omega team look like? Crosshair, Batcher, and then you're doing Wrecker and Echo?
Probably Echo and Tech.
Echo and Tech, no tank?
Yeah, I mean, you're right, Wrecker, and then either Echo or Tank or Tech.
Or do you cut Batcher and then you do like Omega, Crosshair, Echo, Tech, and Wrecker?
That Omega on the team is gross. I'll just that whatever target practice, whatever it's called with Omega, that add-in changes some of the fight. So I'll just call that out because I actually faced somebody who put that Omega in there, and I could definitely see the potential of it doing some things to adjust how the fight is working. She definitely does add something different to that fight, and that's OG Omega, not the new one.
Yeah.
I mean, for my part, if I'm really inclined to concentrate those two into Balin, I don't know that I'm going to hazard Fugitive Omega team. I don't know that.
Oh, well, what are you putting in that spot? Something that's objectively worse?
Maybe. I don't know. It's something I have to think about because how realistic is any of the threat of the team when you've crippled really your ability to get target practice up and around, right? Like how are we going to free up Crosshair to do Crosshair stuff is my question.
Well, I'm looking at this on GG, and if you set Omega, Echo, Wrecker, Batcher, Tech, or Batcher, Crosshair, the only things beating it are like GLs and Bow and Balin.
Okay.
So I mean, like, I think it might be enough of a thing where people don't. people have been conditioned to the good version of the team that I don't know if week 3 they're going to try to go cheap on a slightly weaker version of the team.
Okay.
But I mean, obviously take this with a grain of salt. I will probably move it from, if I do this, I'll move the Omega team from bottom front to top front because of that.
Sure. I can see that.
But I do think that even a worse version of Fugitive Omega is probably better than, like, I don't know, Zori. Like, what else are you putting in that spot? You know what I mean?
Depends. Yeah, Zori's been surprising for a variety of people on defense. Not me, but yeah, I take your point. It's something like that would otherwise replace
I've seen
it.
I've seen a lot of people not read what the Smuggler Cron does.
Mm-hmm. True. Yeah. All right. Any other comments from you guys on this new Bad Batch?
Mine hold to a bunch of stuff and then just die to JML. So I'm kind of just resigning that team to, I guess you're just the JML eater for the season. But
well, wait, you're saying somebody it did hold for you and then it got JML'd?
Yeah, they got a variety of holds, but
look at that.
I can follow my answer.
Let's say I know you did the same thing, Tass. It does feel like the JML placeholder almost of. I don't know what it's going to do, so I'm just going to take JML to it and be done with it.
Okay.
But it also means that Balin gets a lot better on defense because that's a lot of people's primary counter to Balin.
Yeah. Well, look at this. Yeah, Gas ate it. That's nice.
2 Gungan holds, Gas holds. Someone tried Night Sisters, apparently. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Also, it's on here next, and I just want to say that Saw counter to Queen Amidala.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why you'd set Saw with that being like a thing, and I'm strongly considering pulling QA if my opponent has shown any ability to Saw QA, because that's unacceptable.
I think I would. I think I would consider it, and also for the opponents that are, dedicatedly keeping their Queen Amidala for offense. That's actually making me just put Saw back down. That wasn't an unprofitable decision last week.
Oh yeah. But yeah, and what I'm saying is the scout actually matters when that is concerned, because you might just swap them.
Fair. Okay. Now about Great Mother. So Dagger already shared his comments there. About how you can get taunt juggled if there's the zombie and Marin in there. What was it? There was something else. You just mentioned something, Sasha, about fighting Great Mothers. What was that?
No, well, for me, I had a little bit of input on both offensive and defensive. So, on the offensive use of Great Mothers, I actually went into the week. You guys may remember last week I had kind of a goofy thought of throwing tenacity on the squad and then using them as a Jabba counter, and I did that in the first match. Against Rockstar, it had Cad Bane, and Bane level 9 had Cartel long text, and I brought my Great Mother squad. That's obviously Spirit as the 5th with Knight and Death Trooper Peridia, and had a high tenacity cron, so like the min tenacity across that squad was like 320%. And it worked really smoothly. Like, other than Jabba, no deaths landed on my squad. I was able to just sort of pressure down Chrysanthemum and got through it. Where it struggled in the next match, because I was excited to use it again, was it took too long to get Chrysanthemum down. And an ult got off against whoever I had that was somebody I had that wasn't blessed and so wasn't immune to instant defeat, and then it really hampered the squad, and it ended up not working. So it went 1-1 that way, and then Great Mothers was like the determining factor in that first round where it worked for me offensively. It was my failure with Riva against it, like we talked about, as my last battle in the entire match, dropping there. Right. So those were my Great Mother experiences. Uneven.
Thank you for reminding us. And yeah, that did remind me about the comment I said earlier about Riva. Yeah, I got to remember to stick with that torture. I liked that. All right, that's enough on Great Mothers. Next item, Queen Amidala. So, a lot of folks reserving gas right now for Saw and for queen. I will say, for those who have endeavored to take gas against my queen, this Grandmaster Cam has been a devouring. Let me see here. Queen, yeah, so it ate up Saw. Now you're thinking, oh, Saw's been just a dunk on this. Grandmaster Cam has been doing it. This is with a set 20 on. As far as stats go, of course, it's got the light side turn meter level 3. A good chunk of offense, about 24%, and then 38% health. I don't know, really, which one of the stat blocks made the most difference. My guess would be the offense, but maybe the health was helpful. You don't usually think that as being helpful into Saw's fire. They trigger the fire immediately. That's part of why Saw generally is working as a counter. Although I will note, this opponent did use your, Lando Kron, Sasha, and I'm assuming that, something around the Lando Kron was meant to actually get this done. But after about 2.5 minutes, had to back out. So it wasn't coming together for this guy.
Yeah, with the issue there with the Lando, I mean, understandably, nobody remembers OG Lando's kit, but for him to just keep tapping that AoE and ramping his damage, he's got to land crits. It's landing the
Right.
crits that reduces the cooldown. And if you have GMY getting Foresight up there, you're not landing those crits. So you're stuck on like an OG Lando basic and a cooldown of like 3 or 4, and you're like, oh, I'm
Yeah,
SOL.
I was going to say, the reason why a lot of those people, and I'm not saying that you can pull it out. I'm not saying it's necessarily winnable, but I'm saying you almost insta lose, like what Sasha said. I watched someone, they're like, okay, AoE clear Foresight, GMY does Foresight. All right, push Lando button into AoE, into Foresight. All right,
Yeah.
congratulations on your loss, I guess. Like, you're sitting there for like 93 turns, getting the shit beat out of you. Like,
Yeah.
anyway,
This is
I'm with Sasha on that. Like, it takes a deft hand against the GMY if you're going to try to pull that out.
Yeah, and I will note that I think it was a few weeks ago, Fatal was advocating for crit avoidance arrows on the core 3 for the Queen Amidala team. And I took a page from that. I put them in at least those crit avoidance arrows. So I would imagine that I hadn't thought about it until you mentioned it here, Sasha, but that was probably a contributing factor.
Yeah.
My opponents went 2 for 3 with gas, but one of them was a 52. So I'll take the 52.
Sorry, Fatal, you were going to say.
I still have the crit avoid on, but it's honestly not really a focus for me. I regret to inform you, but if you're running set 20, you are fumbling massively at the moment.
You want TM, you're saying?
You want 19 or 21. The fundamental premise of Cam GMY, the reason why I was so obsessed with Cam in Amidala a year ago, anything that gives you health just gives you like 5 digits of offense. So the God combo that exists in 19 and 21 at the moment is you got the level 3 bulk, and then you got the stat pool giving crit damage, which critically applies to your offense given from your health pool as well as from your offense pool. And the sweetener on top, you've got crit chance as well in both the 19 and 21 stat pools. So for anyone who wants to like truly min-max this shit out, you want good crit chance secondaries because the highest value stat you can get is crit damage, and you can only get, of course, like the set and primary from your mods. So yeah, this kind of feels like the first season. Like my Amidala has absolutely been my MVP this season, and this feels like the first season where she's not getting overkilled, that people are trying to run like, yeah, gas Saw, shit like that. And the theory crafting is finally paying off. We're like, no, give it up, go back to running Bane or whatever it is. Like, my opponents ended up giving up shit like that. It's like, yeah, no, this is properly built Amidala and is on a different level than what they're used to. And so it satisfies me greatly to finally see the Manhattan Project doing what it was built to do in proper conditions.
So you would say then that the fact that my set 20 Kron on here held is more a function of them not running the set 20 Merc Kron for Kyle for the sake of his kaboom, more than the set 20 cron I posted having any real relevance?
All I can say is that I was holding to Saw as well, and I don't like the kaboom from Kyle. Like, is it really?
It's really just kind of a little peppering. I'm going to be honest with you.
I laid
mean,
a
my
couple
Kyle-
people out when I've done it, you know.
Yeah, but people's dollars are so fucking bad by default. I assume the worst.
Okay, fair. Fine.
Yeah, and it's not the first bonk. It's like the second or third bonk where he does like meaningful damage, is my experience.
My experience playing Kyle Merc against Amidala, if it was like a proper Amidala, is that like I was basically just like waiting room for his first special to actually like come back around, so I could do like an actual proper big damage move. But yeah, no, like the advertisement that I will give, because I honestly even forgot that I had the CA arrows on, but they are definitely still there, is the potency of this team is the fact that everyone is kind of running the same game plan of bulk equals damage, but in so doing, you're a pain in the ass to kill. That, like, the only downside I would say is like make sure that your cam is not built to be a damage dealer. Like that is the least of his concern, actually. Right, he surviving is effectively giving you the two best damage dealers on your team. The cam effectively almost just becomes like a pseudo support. And so I do not give a fuck about his damage at all. I just have him on like 3x defense, 4x protection, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But you just want to make sure that your Cam and Grandmaster Yoda, not Cam, your Master Qui-Gon and Grandmaster Yoda are both crit damage set, crit damage triangle, 3 health primaries, crit chance between your mods and your Datacron once you add up to ideally around 100% for their special crit chance. And then past that, you know, run whatever speed and health you can and offense. And if you want the difficult stretch homework, here's a fun little piece of trivia from the original Manhattan Projects being created. If you have good enough crit chance secondaries that you can pull this off, one health set is more offense gain than running an offense set. So if you can manage to hit 100% crit chance while running crit damage set plus health set, you're feeling pretty good. And we got light side bulk to boot, even better. Just keep racking those numbers up.
Nice. No, I appreciate you sharing that. All right, yeah, Queen has been a top performer on defense. I know some folks have been rotating her to offense. A lot of folks have been successful using her versus Ray this season. It's not going to be me, though. I agree. She's been a top performer for me on defense so far. I would be loath to give that up. And mine isn't even kitted out. I'm somewhere halfway between the classic speed mod setup for all of them and kind of where you're at. I'm trying to move more in that direction. We're still building up the crit damage sets for that.
I can post my sets. Yeah, even my sets. I fucked up because I realized that I only farmed one proper Master Qui-Gon set.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of the big switch for me this season was going big on Cam GMY rather than like Cam 3PO. And so, I took GMY to Relic 9 a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, all right, this is, perfect. Supports don't gain tank level R9, but it's still like plus 10,000 pre-mod. So, that's plus 3,000 offense or whatever post mods. But I just don't have the mod quality that I would like to have on Yoda for just talking like pure min-max. But yeah, to that point, I do agree that if Amidala was still just like dying to Bane, which like dying to Bane is like that's an okay trait. Bane people use on like shit like it's okay, it's fine. If that was her fate and she was dealing with like Reyes or super teams, I might be like tempted to pull. But she is definitely like one of the most ripe like opportunities to subvert your opponent right now and like win some free banners or eat a few teams 100%.
Okay. All right. Good. Right. We're all on the same page. She's been.
Yeah, the only time that I will ever, like I said earlier, the only time I'll ever have like a pause when I'm looking at any of these fights like I said, if my opponent has shown that they can proficiently use Saw versus Queen, that's just not a trade I'm okay with.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I agreed. She's been one of my better performers. Well, like I said, she hasn't. I think she's only gotten me 1 or 2 holds this month, but she's definitely ate a shit ton of banners.
Here, Fatal just
Even
shared
when
again.
losing.
I think we viewed this before, but Fatal just shared again his Master Qui-Gon and Grandmaster.
These are my mods from last week's lock.
Okay. So yeah, we can see.
Okay.
But we've got that, folks. You can pause the VOD here to see this yourself. I'll scroll on down and we can look at Grandmaster alongside. But anyway, the highlights. He's got the special crit chance there, base of 66 and then base of 65 there. So that's standout. Crit damage triangle, added special offense, no particular emphasis on potency. Just over 300 speed at 305. Both of them 305. Not terribly important to you which one goes first, just to have them both kitted out more or less in the same way. You were able to afford the 2-piece of health for Master Qui-Gon, but you needed the 2-piece of crit chance for Grandmaster.
Unfortunately.
Oh, that's fair. Okay. Well, thank you.
And then I posted the rap sheet for how my Amidala has done this season.
Oh, yes, please. Let's put this up. So with that setup that he just showed, folks are getting laid out. Got gas, got Seer. See, I was going to say earlier that Seer looked like it, could be reliable. And see, that was for a 33, so that was a cleanup. So, okay, fine. Treya, 40. Okay, so a lot of that's, the Treya was a cleanup. And then the rest of this is just goose egg. Really cool that Great Mothers ate it. There's a Saw. Now, dig that. Did you happen to see whether or not this opponent failed with Saw using the Murkron, what you would expect him to see? Because this is my preferred offensive Saw comp with Baze against Queen. And yeah, they got had.
I'm not sure if it had Merc or not, but
Also, how many R7s, R8s, and R9s were on that team?
Mm-hmm. All right.
Because I saw somebody fail with like an R7 Saw and like an R5 or R7 Kyle and like R5. You know what I mean? Like I'm still in like the 300s right now. I'm still on my way back up, boys. Okay. And not everyone has everything mapped. So that's why I was curious.
Yeah, here it was.
It looks like
okay,
it looks
this
like
is
it's
a
pure
set
R7s
19.
across the board.
What's up, people?
The Saw team is pure R7s across the board.
Mm-hmm.
The thing I will add though is the Crit Avoid arrow was like from a bygone era, but it is interacting. Kyle Katarn, isn't he a low crit chance fan?
He needs a lot of help. Yeah, you do have to stack up a lot to get him.
Those Crit Avoid arrows.
Yeah,
those Crit Avoid arrows are extremely funny in the context of people trying to use Sagrera. Because it feels like nobody that I ever run into is like giving characters that need crit chance help the actual help that they need. So, yeah, buddy, you got a 56% crit chance. Good luck.
Yeah, and we can see also this guy didn't run Merc. So that 19 he thought was going to do it. That interestingly brings us to our next topic on the list, talking about Jabba. So, spoke up in week 1 that high tenacity primarily, and then maybe some health on the side, seems to be the best stat mix, probably irrespective of the Jabba level 9 that you would be applying. I want to say here from week 2, I learned that that stat orientation, at least compared to looking at the differences with any of the level 9s applied, those stats seem to help. Stand up to Bam Sana. I had somebody's Bam Sana fail. But more interestingly than that, like we know that if Bam Sana works, it's going to be maybe like a 61. What I saw today that I wanted to share with you guys, I don't have footage of it, but Dash Lead, Sana, Han Chewie, and Vandor with this Sonachron, smuggler, all that, manhandles Jabba. And when I say manhandles, I mean so obviously with the BAM thing, the idea is you're trying to lay the whole team out with the birds, the 20 birds. So, the issue is that if you pop those birds and you don't kill everybody, it's probably Jabba and Chrysanthemum that survive. And that's what happened to one of my opponents. And they stalled out. Why? Because you're not really able to build up those 20 birds again. It's going to be a big challenge to do when you've only got 2 enemy targets on deck. So you end up stalling out. And this dash thing, it doesn't have the same one-hit kill potential. You are relying on your allies to do significant damage. But the idea is that you're not like trying to one-shot everything. You're going to hit it down in a few waves, but you're able to take everything that's coming at you, and there really isn't a stall point. Like you just keep working through the fight, and you will get through the fight, and it looks like a pretty reproducible 65, guys. Like the couple times that Chewbacca took focus and got the buff immunity from Jabba, and they blew him up, Vandor saved him. So no harm, no foul. Really like that. I wonder if you guys had any new experiences, anything you wanted to share about Tales of Jabba, whether it's Bam Sana, this Dash Sana thing, or anything else.
I don't have the tab open anymore, but yeah, when I was looking it up and I was filtering by like the teams you're looking for, it was a smaller sample size, of course, with the Dash lead, but the Bam lead was like it cleared it by a good percentage. It was like 8 to 10%.
Yeah, surely if you're bringing enough offense into the fight and you're able to trigger the offense gain through the Sana level 9, that's probably your path to the one shot.
Yeah, I'm not saying like what you're saying is good or bad. Just and I said this when we were talking about it pre-show and you told me to put a pin in it. I think I said something to the effect of, I think next season we'll have enough data to make a distinction between these two. But going into week 3, I just don't think there's enough data to say one is better than the other, because the dash lead one is significantly less data points, whereas the BAM lead one is the commonly known one. People have refined it, and if people are able to refine the modding, because there's no BAM on the dash lead team, by the way. That was the thing, right?
Yes, that's what's really cool. There is no BAM. So if you're one of those people like me,
so it frees BAM up to go back with Bo.
Exactly. If you're one of those people like me that's occasionally furrowed your brow thinking about how you're applying how you're applying BKM this season without BAM for that nice 1-2 punch we've been enjoying, you could have it back. But yeah, Dagger, what do you think about the following statement then? Without having a good body of data to really draw on for strong conclusions this week, I would say that for well-qualified applicants going into the BAM Sana team, if you've got that offense on BAM, if you've got, good cron situated, that's probably your best path to the one shot. But if you feel like it might be chancy, if you've already dropped doing it, if you hit that stall point that I discussed, then maybe try the dash thing and see how it goes, because if it goes the worst way, then you already know that you were going to be cleaning it up. So what do you think about that statement?
I think that if you are in a position where you don't know what you're going to do against Jabba, and you aren't sure about your smugglers being able to beat it, you shouldn't be using your smugglers. What I will say, though, is Bo has worked wonderfully with Armorer versus everything I have tried it against this season. From Ahsoka to, I think I did a Balin. Armorer has been wonderful. I'm not going to go as far as to say I haven't missed BAM, because I am clocked for BAM's nuke, but I don't think that she needs it right now. I think that Fatal already hit it with the Queen Amidala. I think her having bulk is just cool. She's a Super Saiyan. As long as there's bulk, she's going to be amazing. Because her and Paz and Grogu are just so hard to fucking kill. Dude, I even found myself putting the 3 stacks on fucking Bo-Katan, OG Bo-Katan, just so she wouldn't die. I just don't find I don't find the Bo team, needing BAM right now. So, to your point, if you do feel like you need BAM on your Bo team, that's fine. This gives you another option. But, like I said, to circle back to your question, I'll just reiterate. If you have your smugglers, and you're not sure if you can win, and you're trying to decide whether you're going to go in cheap or expensive on Jabba, go watch a video, figure out if you think you can do it, and if you're still unsure, use JMK.
Okay, fair perspective. How about the rest of you? Any thoughts here about, the Sonic Honors to Jabba, or any other, notes worth sharing on fighting Jabba this last week?
I'll say my opponent round one did the dash lead. I know I saw it, so when you brought it up, it was timely. He did it for me for a 63, and it was everything proper, 100% tenacity, all the setup,
It's
and he beat
exactly
it
what I
in
said it was too, the composition
the
wise and all that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and then everything with the setup. But also look at the relics; they're lower, right? I'm living.
Right.
What is it?
This is what I'm
Uh,
saying. It's consistent. Like it's you take your time sawing through these large relics on the enemy team, but time's on your side here. Like you're so I understand what Dagger's saying. Like Jabba's not something you're wanting to mess with. You do want to have confidence going into it. But if you were otherwise wanting to set a, rigorous defense and you were wanting to use this and you found Bam Sana not quite enough or not quite reliable or not, whatever, somehow lacking.
Well,
This,
the only
I
reason I
think,
feel
can
like,
saw its
no,
way through.
to be clear, I think the only real reason you're doing this version instead of the Sana version or the BAM version is if you want BAM with bow.
Okay. Which
that
Um,
makes
I,
sense,
worthy
and
savings.
also
I
this
will
feels
also
like
say,
somebody who knows how to do a JML as well, or something like that. So I think mechanically, I think Dagger's also pretty well on point as somebody who's pretty savvy with the team and the mechanics of the team of what they're going to do. Whereas Bam Sauna is pop, AoE set, AoE blast, team dead, finish off, right? There's
oh,
no
Mm-hmm.
there's no mechanics built in, have to really know it, where this one you're knowing the
yeah,
fight. So I just wanted to echo Dagger, I think you're
yeah.
on it too, of knowing what's going on.
I also just want to say I'm the wrong person to ask about risk taking. Like, oh, if I don't know how to do extra one, like I'm not the. You have Fatal and like TJ here for the risk taking questions. My answer is going to be if I'm like 75% sure I'm JMKing, right? Like,
Right.
I'm just the wrong person to ask those questions of, admittedly.
No, fair. Fatal, any thoughts from you here? I know Sasha had to step out a sec. Don't want to close you out if you have any notes.
I had to step out briefly. Can we catch me?
Oh, we were just talking about Jabba here real quick. Just about how, whatever shortcomings you might have had running a BAM Sana of your own in week 1 or week 2, folks have found that this dash-based counter without BAM in it is not only effective, but actually favorable to lower relics on your attacking team, even against high relics on the enemy team. I guess the thing that could slow you down is if it were a high health Kron on the Java team. It might take a while, but you might have a timeout condition possibility there if you were going in with like all relic 5s or something like what we're seeing on screen. But nevertheless, I had some patrons in chat today running this in Squad Arena, and I know that it's not quite the same as Grand Arena, Omicron wise, blah, blah, blah. But as a proof of concept, watching this dash just progressively saw through very large Java teams, relic wise, was really impressive to me. And it doesn't have any of the loss condition that you have if you're running the BAM lead, where if you don't one shot the entire, it's Java and Chrysanthemum generally standing, and then you might stall out because you're not able to generate sufficient birds. So we were talking about that, and basically we came down on the idea that if you're of the mind that you would like to have your BAM back with, BKM, then this dash team, this dash Sana based counter, still could potentially work for you as your answer to Java. So that's basically where we were. Just, if you had any comments on these counters or any other notes you had about fighting Java this week, that's all.
I just defaulted Afra and didn't really have an issue. I mean, I haven't really been using Sana Bam, and maybe that's why I'm 1 and 2. Like, certainly it wouldn't have hurt to have an extra offense team to try to bust through some stuff, but yeah, Afra for me has been pretty okay. Like, the only maybe downside for me is that I'm spending B2 is just like, just to be sure, which kind of impacts Grievous, but like, I wouldn't say that Grievous is like, not having him isn't like catastrophic. It's just like a fun team to look for opportunities with. But
yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that though, fighting Java, because Afra has been my answer as well. And I'll note that up until this point, I haven't really fought anybody with super, super high tenacity until just this last round versus Aesop. Up until that point, I was running a set 20, the HK Cron. The HK basically just felt kind of whatever. Like by the time he got to his turn, I generally had the fight well in hand. So So I threw the bombs. It was nice. It was cool. Effectively on offense, I did learn that, yeah, I liked B2 there, like you. I did run Darth Vader, and I thought that was a complete waste. He ended up getting some thermal, so he was going to die anyway if I ended up. The turn I got to pop Merciless Massacre was the turn that if I'd popped it, he would have immediately died to a set of debts. I couldn't bring him back because he's not a droid, so I was just thinking to myself, if I had to do this again, not running Darth Vader here during the life of this Kron, let it be another dark side droid, IPD, IG-88. Sorry?
Well, for what it's worth, I love the HK Kron against the Smuggler level 6 because he applies the 10 down, which allows you to kill them.
Oh, okay, fair. So what does that mean? Like, if you're starting off with Afra at the battle start having a turn, are you just basicing on turn 1, waiting for that?
No, because you still need to get Bush's cooldowns reset. You're just not hitting Scando or Jabba.
Okay, I see.
Which is slightly problematic, but HK still allows you to actually, like, chew through them.
Okay.
And Tenacity Down applies through the Tenacity, which is the other reason why I like HK. But to your point, if it's the Hutt Cartel level 6, I don't think HK matters a ton there specifically. I almost, like, I took Darth Vader and he died once. I didn't try B2 because I have GG posted on defense in front of Sana. So it's like, cool, DTMG this, figure the fuck out how to beat my Sana.
Yeah.
That might change this week, so I might have B2 available. But I was using IPD. I like IPD for the buff immunity on Chrysanthemum.
Yeah, and that would further buff HK, right? Like, I think it gives him more speed per each dark side droid. Yeah, 15 speed for each droid or scoundrel. So if droid and scoundrel, so if we bring IG, that's another 30. Because I was just trying to think, like, or you were just mentioning, I was going to agree, against the Hutt Cartel Kron, you don't think it makes much of a difference. And I agree, because, like, when you're starting the fight, you're wanting to open up with Afra's Doubt. So the fact that he can apply Tenacity Down after that doesn't really do a lot for me. So you're thinking, oh, is there a condition where it might make sense for me to use her summon first and then come back around? It's like, if and only if the HK is effectively fast enough to throw on out and fear the enemy team and make it easy for Afra to get that next turn, yeah.
You have the video where I did this, because one of the reasons I fucked this fight up, I don't remember if it was this week or last week, was because I did the HK Fear and then decided to do basic with BT1 to not break the fears, because for some reason in my head I'm like, yeah, like, I don't want to break this. And then I'm like, wait, I've never cared about them being feared before. Why do I care now when I can just AoE and then 000 takes his turn and then I get to AoE again? And I just set myself back and I just let them all just have a free turn, basically.
Yeah.
To get the ult. And then I got ulted. And I'm just like, that was super dumb of me.
It's a fair lesson to not worry about perpetuating the fear, maybe, because, you are an AoE-based team, so, yeah, go ham with it. But what do you think about the idea that I was talking about with, if you're really trying to gain any advantage from Tenacity Down, the AoE Tenacity Down, you would have to forestall Afra's use of, her AoE, Rogue Archaeology.
I was mostly just saying that's only relevant if they have the Smuggler level 6.
Okay.
I don't think you're trying to leverage that against the Hutt Cartel level 6. I think he's just there as a better body than something else you could take.
Yeah. And I don't know if any other thoughts are rattling around the room on that, but I will say that in the...
this week we get to use our Afrocron.
It's true. Yes, the focused one. And we'll talk about the focused crons in a minute. So hold on to that thought. We'll get there. I promise you. The last note, though, on Jabba was, in that final round versus Aesop, he had an incredible tenacity stack up on that Kron. Like, huge number. Like 170-something absolutely bizarre. The point is that I looked at my Afra team and thought, with any configuration of set 20, I did not have any kind of reliability for my doubt. So I went in with a set 19, highest potency that I could manage, and we were great. We got all 5 doubts right off rip, and manhandled him essentially from there. So just, keeping the eye out for the high tenacity, I wasn't caught lacking. Again, though, this new, set 19, this is the last hurrah for set 19. It's going to expire here. And when you're looking ahead to set 21, think again about having a Kron built up that's high tenacity. Think about a Kron for high potency. of course, you do have the Africron, the enhanced Set 21 Datacron for her, so probably not needing to worry about that much in her specific
Yeah.
case. But yeah, otherwise, something to think about.
Yeah, we have the Jabba won't be on defense for 4 months, 3,000.
Perhaps so, yeah, because it looks pretty brutal.
Immune to thermal detonators.
Mildly concerning.
If someone wants to spend 4 Datacrons worth of cost to win a matchup that they could probably win anyway, go with God.
Yeah, that is the other thing.
Yeah, I'm not arguing that. I'm mostly just saying that I will probably end up working on them just because, like, the Fennec dad bod one looks nasty. And
They
I love
look.
Afra, so having an Africron
good.
is going to be
we're on the same page. We're ready to talk about this, guys. That was my last set of comments on meta matchup, so that's just as well. Best attack and defense of the week, guys. Something that really jumped out to you. Now, we've covered a bunch of our fights that stood out, but pick one that we haven't mentioned here. Just one. It can be one attack or one defense. Doesn't need to be one of each. But let's put you on the spot immediately, Dagger. Let's have your favorite attack or defense of last week.
I think my favorite, like, I did this on I streamed this to your Discord.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna cheat because it's not just one attack. It's Backpack Liam's back wall.
Okay, that was your round 3, was it? Okay.
Yeah. The pressure that the BAM Lord Vader team put on me, paired with that Reva team. Now, granted, I ended up just jobbing the Reva team, and it looks like I kind of crushed it. But Task was there. This was not a close fight. This was a very close fight that I ulted and ended up looking like this.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned these now that you're reminding me. This was cool. So, yeah, this BAM Lord Vader, we've seen a couple different permutations of this. You've got BAM, Sana, Maul Lord Vader +1, often dash, something like that. But yes, this being a problem here, I can believe. And then, yeah, I remember you revealing this, and I was sitting there scratching my head. What a team here! What a concentration, man! You talk about going all in for the sake of the defense. This should bring a tear to your eye, Fatal. Reva, Exile Ezra, Starkiller, Visas, and Malik. Talk about going for broke. So
yeah, and like I said, it looks like I did really well. But Tass will probably remember, like, 90 seconds into that fight with, like, Boosh and the Red hanging on for dear life. They popped the savior on Kersantin. Like, they fucked me up, and it looks really nice at the end because I got the ult.
Nice.
Yeah, so that looks gross on many levels because you're having to think about all the kits and everybody's dynamics and then taking Datacron. So that is a lot of, like, you understand what is going on in the game.
Very good.
That was like, I wish we had recorded that task because, like, you were there for you remember how, like, absolutely butt clenching that fight was. Just praying Boosh didn't die. Man, that was rough.
Yeah.
This is Vertigo, by the way. He is just a very clever lad.
Well, good
also, that Treya Trench team, don't do that. The Trench played no role in any of that. Don't be doing this.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But yeah, like, he put the screws to me to the point where, like, Tass was there, and I was trying to, like, cheap out on some other teams to give myself additional options after that JML lost. After that JML lost, I was really flustered because in our heads that worked really well, and then Lord Vader did his second did his ulted and did his crush, and, like, 3 of the sides just fucking vanished from Thanos. Like, full health and protection. It was like Cal in the deep yellow and JML at, like, half health, and it's like, all right, well, that was a fun experience. So anyway,
thank you for sharing that. That was a good one.
I kind of cheated because it was a whole back wall, but yeah.
Yeah, well, we didn't go too far into it, so let's stop right there for you. TJ, how about you? Your favorite single attack or defense from last week? Where are we going?
Which one was it? I want to say it's, I think, round 1. It's my 2-man against Ray. I decided to say the hell didn't try it, and I should have recorded it, but I saw it as, like, I'm going to lose the fight, so I took. It wasn't like the greatest Ray team, but it was a Ray nest, and so I decided, you know what? I think this can work with the right function because they're going all in. Wouldn't call it I would call it fun. Being able to work, and I didn't get to record it, but them going all in SLK, who doesn't care, he's just waiting, and then you're playing the same old school ult game. She goes into ult, you wait it out, but you're getting enough crits that she's doing for you to keep you in, and then they just start fading away. So it was awesome. As
Gotcha.
long as she didn't take a turn, but once she did, and they said, "Oh, you like taking turns," and so then she quickly went away, and then we were just you're just playing the solo game.
Gotcha.
There's also not a terrifying amount of offense on that team either, which also
There was an ungodly amount of offense on that team, and a lot. Which you wouldn't think of it, a lot of moving. They were moving so many. They were double digits in how many times they would move before I would even go, because Zori was helping press it back. It was a good idea, but like I said, I'm gonna just try to 2-man this and see what it did, and it still felt like the SLK of old, and that you don't just get to kill anybody, and because they're trying to hard focus, you're doing whatever else. She's sitting there waiting, and so you're just poking, swiping, and then just being mechanically set, and then just timing out the ults, but you stay there really well.
Okay.
This is just an anecdote, but does anybody else, or an anecdotal question, does anybody else notice that Nest feels like depressingly, like, sad?
Just
Like,
not getting a ton of use out of her this season myself.
Yeah, like every time I fight against her, I'm like, oh, Nest, this could be... Nope, she's not good.
By the way, happy to have Sasha back with us, along with some road noise. How you doing there, sir?
Yep. So good. Sorry for the road noise, but to Dagger's point, I have that same kind of sentiment on Nest, and I feel like it's just unfortunate. Her level 9 was nerfed from its previous version. She used to have more offense that was stack through the end of it, and that just made her terrifying as time went on. We missed that.
The attacker level 6. Remember that.
It doesn't say it's that 6. Yeah, the time of the
Right.
offense was cool,
Yeah,
but 6 and doubling down on the impact really did it. Where now she's tucked in a team. She's not the team. Whereas last Datacron, that set, she was the team. You had to absolutely respect when you saw a Nest there. Now it's like, oh, this is cool with Nest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because there's been like Zori Nests and shit like that on defense. Where I'm just like, oh man, this team's gonna be tough, and then it's like, oh, never mind.
Yeah, I faced the trench Nest, and it was like, oh, that's cool.
I will say that Ray Ezra Nest is decidedly harder, at least for playing Starkiller, than without.
Yeah, I can see that.
A pretty fat problem. I don't know. I don't know people for trying to get creative with her, but to me, it's kind of like Zalbar Omicron, where it's like,
yeah,
as neat as it is, it seems like Ray is kind of just the home for it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Sasha, you're back with us here for however long we can have you. Happy that you're able to keep getting back with us, sir. Thank you. But it's a good a time as any. How about your favorite attack or defense of this last week? Where are you taking us to?
So my favorite attack is the one time my great mothers with high tenacity worked on Jabba, because like I said, that was just something I was excited to do.
Oh.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, I'm actually trying to scroll down to find that fight. Was that round 3?
Yeah, it was round one. And that was just a fun attack, just to kind of see something that was an idea that I liked, have it come to life. It really wasn't a defense that I would say was like a difference maker for me.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing I would say that would jump out there. What I'll say is kind of just to pour one out for a defense that I had higher hopes for, and that was the BAM Sauna L3 LV Maul, right? Where there's just a ton of damage that's being thrown out. It seemed interesting. It ended up being, one, something that people were anticipating, and two, have some vulnerabilities that just kind of stole the party. So yeah, nothing great on D. That was actually, that was probably the main theme of my week, was my D did not do as well as I would have liked.
Fair enough. No, I appreciate you sharing that. All right. Fatal, last but not least, your favorite attack or defense of the week. You only need pick one. Where are we headed?
I honestly kind of already said them throughout the episode. It was really just Bad Batch and Amidala
Okay.
on defense, just doing their thing.
Okay. That's fair.
Offensively, nothing to report.
Yeah. We had a rough patch with some of the attacks this week. Fair enough. All right, guys. That concludes that segment. Before we head to the takeaways, I know that we're excited to talk about for this coming week. Set 21 will make a early debut for those of us here, super competitive wise, wanting to pick up those crons. So you have the option to have locked in with some set 21s, whatever you'd prepared, and any of the focused set 21 datacrons. You might have dumped, a ton of resources, possibly a portion of the mortgage or the rent, because holy crap, the focus crons are expensive. Like, it's expensive.
Don't call out Sasha like that.
Well, and if the hit dog is gonna holler well, because like those are extraordinarily expensive. I got one up to, I want to say 11, and I saw what it would cost to go 12, 13, 14, and finally 15. I just didn't have it. I ran out of steam. I was trying to have the Zalvarkron kick in here for this week, but I couldn't get all the way up there. So kudos to any of you here on the show that made it, and damnation to any of my opponents this week, Sasha included, if you have more than me.
No, I love indulging in that stuff, but I still didn't make it very far. I don't even know that I got to 9 on one of them. But I started on Scion and Django, and then did the first level or two, like 1 or 2 levels of Afra. Scion and Django maybe got to I don't remember 7 or 8, but it's just ridiculous how many maps it takes.
Yep, prohibitive.
I'll get them done. I'll get them done during Conquest for sure. Yeah. But I got one of them to level 8, and I have 3 level 9s from the set from the set as proper. Mm-hmm. I have Mon Mothma, Emperor Palpatine, and Sidious.
Now, to keep us on task for the question, though, what are our intentions for any of these for week 3? So for me, really, this Zalbarkron's going to be a stat stick somewhere, effectively. I mean, there are a couple abilities on there that are maybe worth exploring, but the one that I really wanted to see if I could apply elsewhere is this level 12 that I just ran out of juice to get. Whenever a debuff on an enemy expires, Scoundrel allies gain 2% offense, doubled if that debuff was dispelled until the end of battle. I was thinking that might have been a shoo-in for something with Dash, for some type of tricky application, but like I said, ran out of steam there, so I won't be using that aside from stat stick uses. I do have a I have a Wrecker Cron. I tried to reroll a couple times. I couldn't get Crosshair. That was the one I was looking for. So, Wrecker it is. I will probably be sticking that on my Bad Batch. And then for Grievous, I picked up a Grievous Cron, got the health up, level 3, blind 6, Grievous 9. Couldn't roll away this tenacity chunk, but otherwise pretty happy with it. I really haven't been making use of Grievous this season at all. Like Fatal said, I've been mostly poaching B2 for use with Afra, so I've really just kind of left him on the cutting room floor. But I think he may have a role for me this week. But yeah, how about, I guess Dagger first. Any specific plans?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I got the Afra one to level 8, and I plan to use that because I have the unlocked Chrysanthemum. Not that I'll ever use Chrysanthemum here, don't get me wrong, but I have the level 3 Chrysanthemum, and then I have the Scoundrel allies ignore taunt to hit debuffed enemies. And then it also has 80% potency and some other stats. So I'll probably end up using that with Afra just because, being able to kill Boosh immediately just feels really good. Not that it needed help, but this gives me something that doesn't require some other Cron, because I think the stats on my HK Cron are better than this team needs to beat Jabba, if that makes sense.
Fair.
And then as far as the actual Crons from this set goes, I'm interested to see how the Palpatine one does with Starkiller. Because because I have 84% crit damage and 52% health on it. So I'm interested to see how that works. It might also just end up being a Sith Cron, because it's whenever a Sith falls below 100% to take a bonus turn. So it might just end up being C or Bane Cron. I don't know. And then the Sidious Cron that I got, I'm super excited for this one.
Oh yeah, you got a
Not
good
because
one.
Not because the Cron is amazing, but because this kicked the shit out of those DTMG teams with the DTMG Crons.
Remember that? Yeah, with the summoned
Yeah,
Red
so I'm
Trooper.
excited for if my opponent sets a DTMG team to try this. I will be trying this if you set that.
Oh yeah, surely this is going to be. He's going to be just the harvester of flesh and bone out there in 3v3 next season. But
Oh yeah,
probably not. I don't have
I
really
expect
high
him to be
hopes for
back.
use in 5s though.
but I do have a couple applications for the new Crons, and then I have a handful of level 3s. I have a couple health up level 3s for whatever I need. I have whatever. I have a
that's
bunch
good.
of extra Crons that I probably may or may not use on after I drop 9 battles or something because I tried Sidious.
But no, you shared your specific plans. That's exactly what I was looking for. Thank you for that, TJ. Likewise to you now. What do you got prepared for this next week? What's cooking?
I call myself the baby Thanos because it cost me everything, but I did get an Afro to 12. So I have the doubt, and I am excited for what it comes to do. I'm also a Phoenix truther, so I saw that, and I bought them all, and I will have them all up because, man, dude, I love showing me Phoenix like that. And I was looking at all the pieces like, oh, this is gonna be good because I still have good modding there with that setup, so I'm excited for that one. But getting in, I wanted to make sure to what Dagger said. I looked at all the pieces, and the highest calling to me right now is Afra. One, because I can trick it out, and Chrysanthemum getting all of the stats and putting it on. One of the things you need is a good tank, and Chrysanthemum being a good tank for Afra. I have some thoughts of what I might try to do or what I try to flex around because Jabba is just
Back on that
so.
really quick. I'm already using Jabba on offense, and there are some fights where I'm not sold that Piggy isn't good enough.
There you go.
Agreed.
So thank you for stealing my thunder, Dick. But yeah,
You're welcome. I'm the Afro truther here, asshole. You can keep your Phoenix.
Yeah. You go suck the pee. But anyway, so what I was
I
saying.
suck the PNS. Don't be
Oh,
saying vulgarities on this
I
show.
like that.
So just to piggyback on that anyway, before I got hijacked, fucking redheads. But my thing is, I agree with Dagger, and so I went to 12. So I have the doubt tied in as well. I was really trying, man. I was thinking I was going to go all the way up because not being able to target Afra, ooh, and especially right now, that is a scary sentiment. Just naturally has some great stats for what it's doing. Giving doubt, that's a tie-in. So it's like all the pieces felt like a good one because obviously what we're looking for is can it do something different on defense? I feel like there's some good applications. I love the idea. And the one thing we always talked about, having Chrysanthemum stuff turn on under Afra has good pieces. What Dagger said is true.
Yeah.
Also remember that
Jabba
Chrysanthemum,
kills.
I believe Chrysanthemum revives, so you can there might be some JMK
yes.
applications here too.
Yes, it absolutely revives. You're right. That's why I'm saying it's like all of the pieces that tied in, and then also being able to bypass the taunt. That to me also screams this could be good shenanigans to get into. So I even went in, adjusted some of my modding for some of the characters of the team, and then also Afra. As far as the new set, I usually don't, and historically I won't push anything. I did get Apple to 8. So I had the Apple Cron just to look at what it might do or something. I don't know. Maybe it cheeses out an LV Apple situation or something else. And then I just naturally rolled a Saw 9. I just wanted to get something started. I am looking forward to where it's going to go because I know I haven't got to see your video yet, but I know there's a lot of good applications for this one, and I think it's going to be a highly investable Datacron set that we'll be looking at for multiple pieces. So I have more to come, but and then I think I'm already jealous of what Dagger said when he says he's got to see this one because I know when we get to the next season, man, come 3s, Sidious is back on the market for what are we killing?
That's right. It's true. Well, appreciate that. Great notes. Sasha, your turn for the question. What do you got prepared?
So, nothing that I would say is like that I'm super excited about. I am curious to see Oppo and the potential. As I mentioned, I had just a brief opportunity to roll it out in Squad Arena. And what I actually found worked in Squad Arena, this is like just 2 things, but it was against a JMK squad, and I just took LV 3 Empire tanks and Oppo, and was able to auto through JMK squads. Now, like, it doesn't mean that they're going to hold up on D necessarily, but like I was just impressed with it. So that's a toy that I want to figure out some application for. The Bad Batch cron that I rolled was a Batcher cron, not what I would have wanted, but it has a really interesting wrinkle on that Batcher 9 that is basically like, hey, you got to come corrected and use your JML, because if you don't bring a Galactic Legend, the Batcher 9 prevents any turn meter gain, which I think is interesting. I don't have the optimal 6 on that, but that's one that I expect to roll out as just sort of the compulsion for an opponent to use JML. And then I have a Dooku Separatist one. It's not optimal, but that's one that I'll have to think about. So how I lay out my D, but it's not impossible. I would set like a trench Dooku Watt, the normal, kind of, unexciting Separatist 5, and just see if you cut off Dooku's hand or whatever, if that ends up making it viable. So that's it. The bespoke stuff, like I mentioned, I just got Cyan and Django up to level 8, and so I don't think that's enough to do much. I mean, maybe it's a good Vader counter because it at least gets grit on bounty hunters, but the greatness starts to get unleashed at 9, and then it really sort of comes at 15. So yeah, nothing that's super novel. I did mention I took Oppo to R9. I thought that made sense because I was enthusiastic about what I saw. But yeah, that was my prep.
So you've got something you're thinking about. You don't have to share the details, but you do have some plans then for application of Oppo for this week.
No, not specific, but I will definitely be using him. I'll either use him on offense or defense. It just happened to be the first thought I had I wanted to have him last long enough in Squad Arena to just sort of see what the damage output was from both Oppo and the summon, and I was impressed. Like I would say it was maybe like the second or third time that the summon went, and it one shot a cat on the other side, like for I don't know 350, 340k or something.
All right.
Yeah, and again, this is in Squad Arena. It's not necessarily the squads that are the same caliber that we're accustomed to running into, but I was really impressed. And again, that was a like no thinking, just 3 Empire tanks with it to try and ensure, because you don't, they're all GLs I was facing, so I don't have that the benefit of that. I can't remember the name of the label, the something commander, Coruscant commander, whatever, that requires LV to go first. So I just want to make sure they survived. It's not an optimal comp, but it was impressive. Yeah, it's steamrolled to JMK. Again, I'm not saying it's the viable D, but yeah, there's definitely uses.
Okay. Oh, I appreciate it. All right, Fatal. I don't think you were usually going too hard on the early Datacrons yourself, but feel free to surprise me. What have you been cooking up here, set 21 wise, for week 3?
I mean, I do it if there's something that seems fun and there's like a team that I want to mess around with. Like I have a couple for the season. I will say for the most part, I don't think FTCs are like all that good, especially for like an early week 3 bid. Like I'm gonna work on them for Conquest, but I actually don't even know if they're gonna be like the first thing I even work on. Like to give an example, not to focus on the Bad Batch side too much, but like, because what FTCs, it was said like one full FTC is the price of like 4.
That's what I heard. Right? Yeah, 4 otherwise.
That's what I've heard going around.
Datacrons. Yeah.
Ignore the 6 and 9, but I feel like I would be way the fuck more terrified if I ran into an opponent who had 4 of these than like a Dr. Aphroditacron. I feel like that is a problem. And like to that end as well, if I can try to call a bit of a ball, if I'm looking at my defense right now, trying to post like, the 11 strongest teams, I do think Afra's Datacron might have some defensive viability, but I don't think it is a top 11 team. And so my natural conclusion there is that I actually think that there's a solid chance that Afra's Kron will not go to Afra. That it's just going to be looking for some doubt opportunity elsewhere potentially. And even then, I would have to relook at the Afra stat pool specifically. Actually, I have it up right now. Protection potency, offense potency, tenacity potency, protection potency, offense potency. Yeah, so it's like I don't know if that actually. It would have to be doubt in like a really good spot. It would have to be like, boom, this dark side team. Like, I wouldn't be shocked because I don't think Apocron's that great either. If we get some LV clones rolling, I would not be shocked if like it turned out, yeah, LV clones with the Afrolock doubt is like a good thing to do. That would not shock me.
Okay. Now, I pulled up your crosshair, Crown. What do you got to say about this one? You went really high with the survivability, and when Aesop and I were talking about this, we thought, I think we went pretty hard on crit damage or armor penetration. So tell me why you're approaching it from the other end. Why you thinking the bulk is really the key and not the damage?
I don't know. The damage goes infinite, and you can't do damage if you're dead.
That's true, and you have all the stats, multiplying in with the bulk level 3, so you would really be quite intimidating to anything that isn't a GL. So I take that point.
I don't know. I am not trying to sound overly reductive here, but I'm kind of just building these datacrons just to play with the toys, so to speak, more so than anything else. And
sure,
I still kind of just expect that they will just die to JML at the end of the day.
Sure.
But I will say that it's entirely possible. Like if you're posting Bad Batch on defense, if you're trying to force the wind to blow in the JML direction, Batcher 9 might just be like kind of required of you. Just because the TM block is like that will stop Dash Sana type shit from doing what it does.
Fair.
That it's not the fun or cool option, but it is due diligence to shut off another line of attack to try to make non-GL's lives a little bit more annoying. But yeah, I don't know. The Bad Batch is very much a toolkit team where you can very much tweak around your tools to suit the job. And I think this Datacron very much fits in that vein as well, where both Wideside Bulk and Tank Revive have some pretty good arguments to be made for them. I think there are 3 good level 6s, with Crit Avoid being interesting to help the non-stealth be more resilient, the per turn regen. I really wish that it was double health regen instead of double protection regen, but that I think will still shock people with how much they can regenerate, and is kind of the most in conversation with JML, if that's what you're directly worried about, because Riposte will ignore it, but holistically, if they're not just all-inning on Cal Riposte, if you're built for sheer bulk and you're just getting, let's say 50,000 bulk backers, some made-up number like that, I don't know, that you could do worse than that. It's at least an inconvenience.
Yeah, no, I thought that how seldom is it that this recover the health, whenever Bad Batch allies recover health, they recover protection equal to the amount of health recovered. How often are we taking that? Wherever that type of level 6 has popped up before, and it just so happens that with Fugitive Omega's lead and that restoration mechanic, that this is a neat little double dip. So I see the merit for a defensive application, for sure. Oh, I appreciate that. Those are good thoughts. I really wish I could have had either the Crosshair or Batcher level 9 for this week. Any other 9s you wanted to hit on there that you're planning to use?
I don't have them.
Okay, no worries.
There are plenty of good Datacrons for this set.
Oh yeah. But we're just trying to see, in these early days, in this final week, anything else? And no, I appreciate that note.
If my opponent has a Sidious, I'm going to be annoyed, potentially annoyed, because I'm just not going to think about where Sidious sits against 11 teams. I'm just not going to process that.
Isn't that really not a problem specifically for you, though, because of the heaviness of the defense you tend to set? Like, I don't think you're actually going to leave out Sidious Bait.
Yeah, you would like to think, but that shouldn't stop him last time in a lot of cases. So
fair. Okay, fair. Well, all right, that closes up. Sorry, you had something?
No, I was just gonna say, Omega leaves all of her stealth characters immune to damage over time. So sneaky. If you choose not to run the stealth reshuffle, you could possibly bait some Sidious players that way.
Okay, nice. That's a great note to throw in. All right, we wrapped up this little bonus segment here on the early plans for Set 21 in this final week of 5 vs. 5. We have made it to the end. It is takeaways and final thoughts. Let's ping right back off you, Fatal, and work our way back out. As we head into this final week, we just got your thoughts on anything to do with this last set of Datacrons, but what about any other refinements? You said that you're going to mostly keep the same strength of defense. Anything else, though, that you think you might be doing differently, looking at differently going into this final week?
I mean, whether I win or lose is just going to come down to whether or not I can adapt on offense and figure out an offense plan that suits the needs. Because all of my losses have pretty much just been decided by like 1 or 2 fights being lost, and like that's just enough to put me in a losing spot.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I probably just need to do some research and try to see if I can get things a little bit tidied up, because I do feel like the tools are there. I don't think it's necessarily like I'm posting so much I can't clear this. It almost really just feels like it comes down to practice. Or like I'm losing JML against SLK, and I don't think I should be losing that necessarily. I just don't have experience of the fight.
Fair. Okay, well, thanks for that note. And before we let you go here, where can the good folks find you this week? Is the only other streamer on the show?
Yeah, twitch.tv/PlaybookTV.
Right, appreciate you. Sasha Aisha, we'll reverse order and get you on out ASAP as well. Appreciate you making the time while you've been busy. You could have just as easily said I wouldn't be around, so I appreciate you getting in wherever it made sense. But for this final week...
Thanks for having me back. Yeah. Thanks, and sorry it was in and out there, but for one of the things I'll just say, sort of looking forward to this week. I think as opposed to Fatal, I mean, for me, I really think it's going to be about, can I generate holds on defense, and I think looking at the composition of the top 8 group that we've got this week. Actually, shout out to CG. We've only got 1 Erodium in that bracket this week, so that's exciting. But there are some players there that are heavy efficiency, and not all by any means, but I think at least a little bit. So trying to get a little more creative about it, about trying to manufacture some holds. When I go back to the first week when I felt really confident that my defense was generating a good amount of holds, but a lot has been solved. And then I guess the last thing I'll say, just kind of sentimentally, it'd be great to get a matchup with you, Tass. So I'm hoping I got to do my part. I got to earn it, and I'd love to see if we can get a matchup, maybe in the semis or finals this week if possible. But yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to as a possibility.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Fatal, not to put you on the spot, but barring ill health or an act of God, do we get your commitment here that if Sasha and I get matched up, you'll set our defenses for us?
Gone.
Oh, boo. All right. Well, I'll follow up with him by DM. That's no fun.
Do we want to do that for this next match? I'm happy to do it if he's game, but we can either do that or we can do straight up or we can do whatever. It's whatever you prefer. And it would be a ton of fun to get.
If he's not available, I'll throw my hat in the ring, but it will be far less fun.
Another mad scientist. That's true.
We'll see. I'll follow up. We'll figure something out if it happens.
Love it.
Yeah, I hope I see you this week. I've got you can't say for the first round, so your aforementioned handful of efficiency players in this group. I've got one who's infamous for it, so we'll see how I do, and hopefully I'll see you later in the week, man. But anything else you wanted to comment on for your week 3 plans?
I was just going to go through the board that I'll set for you if you want to. Nothing else.
Send me a screen cap, all of that. I'm sure it'll be all Jawas.
That's it for me, Tess.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you again for being with us. All right, TJ, how about you? Your final plans. Your plans for this final week, rather. What do we got cooking?
Mine is a little more taking what we talked about in the beginning and then just trying to reapply it. I've looked at the stuff. I know Tass, you, Dagger, and I have talked extensively and what my swan song was going to be for the end of week 3. I'm ready to put that in. So as what was it, the middle poster or wherever it's at like that? I've got some things I want to shuffle. I'm looking at things I want to use for offense. I don't expect I walk away the same. I think it's going to be the need to talk about that. Still setting that extra team on defense, as I call it, the one that really determines the win or the loss is really where it's at. Um, so I'm looking forward to that and adjusting. I know what I've scouted and what I've been trying for, and I know what I've been telling the people with my board for anybody who wants to scout. But I've got some shuffles I want to make this week.
Makes sense. I appreciate that. All right, Dagger, to you now. Your plans for this final week of Grand Arena of 5 versus 5. Your thoughts for the folks at home. Let's have it.
This last week was a lot of fun. My number one goal for next week is to set my defense earlier than 10 minutes before lock. Because if you go look at my defenses, you'll see like OG Qui-Gon on my Queen team, you'll see Cat on my Seer team. It's to, actually set my teams properly and not be like, oh, I want to move this, and then fuck the whole thing up. No, I'm as TJ said, I learned a little bit from this week, and to kind of echo what Fatal said, I feel like one of the things that have made this season kind of fun is I don't feel like I'm practiced in any counter, because I think I've used at least 2 counters for almost every team I've seen on defense so far this season. I don't think I've been just like consistently doing one thing versus another thing, and I think that keeps it fresh, keeps it a little more interesting going into week 3. So usually going into week 3, I'm a little more burned out on the meta, waiting for the new Datacron set to maybe shake things up. But no, I really like this season. I think my last takeaway will be like to what TJ said. I think this last week it's to stretch how much I've learned on offense and how flexible a lot of these teams are, especially if you just use Saw to just trivialize their queen. It's like, all right, cool. Now I just have Bane free, and he's a free agent for this entire fight. And I think the first couple weeks I had JMK as a flex. Like, do you know how absurd that is to have JMK as a flex and still be capable of manufacturing holds, like Sasha said, on defense? We just have a really fun meta where I feel like if you put the work in and if you are clever or, smart, use whatever adjective you want, you can manufacture drops in this meta, and that's without setting the house like Fatal does. Or you can at least manufacture bleed. You're not going to be able to manufacture a full drop, but so I'm going to try to stretch what I can do on defense in week 3, because I think that there are some, like I mentioned earlier, I've been trying to find a way or a reason to put Balin on defense while still keeping the integrity of the Omega fugitive team, because, man, that team is really hard to beat.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can easily do that. You could even run the full one, but I think it's worth, if you're really trying to be sure that you stand up to Gungans in particular, if somebody reserves it, then you probably want to commit both, and then you can decide however you want to set the reduced fugitive Omega team. But if you haven't been setting Balin on defense, the fork that you're most concerned about is how you're drawing Bane, how you're drawing Gungans, how you're drawing Slacker. That will be most people's solve. So if you hadn't been setting them, those are your considerations.
Oh yeah, I'm not worried about a lot of that stuff. My defense has been relatively robust all season. Like the worst team I'm setting is probably Gungans, which, spoiler, is probably coming up.
Fair.
Because that's the other thing too. I found this last week that there are, like, I don't even think Saw belongs on the board. Like, that's basically where we're at. Like, when I see Saw, I'm just like, oh, I have like 9 things that kill this, and I can pick one of these three things that's cheap enough that I won't miss it.
Yeah, fair.
And I think that there's a lot of teams that fall into that category. I'm not just picking on Saw, right?
Mhm.
But I think that Gungans are the one team that it's like, you have like 3 clean counters to this that like aren't GLs, and if you want to do it, go for it.
Fair.
And you might get punished for it. Anyways, I've spoken a lot, so I don't want to monologue. I'll pass it back to you.
No, you're good. Appreciate the notes. It's good stuff. You actually teed me off rather well for my wrap up because, going from week 1 into week 2, it was my goal to take maybe the weakest 2 defenses off, rotate them out with something else. Sometimes it was only one team that I more or less was rotating out from week 1, but it made a difference. I aggressively, scouted my opponents and read their tendencies and tried to offer more interesting choices than anything. Whether they were an opponent that favored a heavier defense or efficiency, it was one of those things where looking at their preferences from week 1, and now we have 2 weeks of data, really informed the type of backwall trap I wanted to set, which at this end of the pool is more about the choice you offer than the sheer might of the team itself. Like your opponents are reserving, in general, the right tools to deal with the biggest and baddest. So it's about where they have to fight them or after which fights do they go after these big teams. Keep that in mind. Challenge yourself to look at how your opponents cleared your defenses and look for the weakest ones. Like what was a lot of these counters you're expecting to work the way that they do. If it was something like, man, that guy got DTMG to work against my Bam Sana Lord Vader. Probably not going to set that this week if I'm seeing opponents were successful with that on me. Things like that. So look out for such opportunities. Use any new Datacrons you have. Give yourself an early leg up with some data when we come back to 5 vs 5 the next time. And I think that's about it. So thank you all for tuning in. We've made it to the end of the episode. You know that if you want to catch me live for my streams, the place to do it is twitch.tv/Tassinix. Now I am simulcasting on my YouTube as well, so check out Tassinix Gaming, where you can find a host of other Swugger-related content that I think you'd be interested in. Not the least of which being a rebroadcast point for this very show, Plotting and Scheming. I also have my Datacron set guides on set 20, and now the new set 21, which as of the time of this recording, patrons have that, and the general audience will have that video one day before Plotting and Scheming goes public, so you will have seen that by then. Or hopefully you should have. If not, check that out. Aside from that, there's also mod guide videos on characters and factions that you've asked about. A handy video that I'll need to update soon about your, tier list for GAC Omicrons. Whole bunch of stuff, so check it all out over there. Anything you like on the channel, please do hit the actual like button and hit subscribe if you want to see more. Really appreciate that support. That's really the thing that means the most, is getting the follows, the likes. That's driving great engagement numbers, and it doesn't cost you anything out of pocket. But if you really like what I'm doing over here and you want to support what I'm doing, there are a few ways to do that. First, I have a Cash App. That is $Tassinix. I have a PayPal. That is tassinix@gmail.com. But if you're interested in some improved, scouting powers, early access to some of my content, and of course, keys to where me and the other Grand Arena, madmen are hanging out most of the time, you'll have to check out my Patreon. Patreon.com/Tassinix. For any upwardly mobile Grand Arena player, there is something there of interest for you. $5 a month gets you into the Tass House at VIP Access Plus, where you get early access to the Plotting and Scheming podcast. It's coming out to our general audience Friday mornings at 8 a.m., but my patrons are getting it as early as Tuesday night within hours of us recording. In addition to that, early access to the Datacron set guides, and of course, dedicated text and voice chat on Discord, where you will usually find me. So pop on in and say hi. Thank you so much to Andrew, Banja, Deadpool Cow 28, JJ's Productions Twitch, Jobin4527, Johnny B. Ottawa, Me Asmal, Mus Ross, Rays Malbus, Sam Bimes, Sheepdog 47, Squed, Stark Strategy Gamer, Sweens 14, and White Wolf. Moving on up to the $10 a month tier is VIP Access Plus, which I have just changed, actually, within today. Previously, the offering was you get a bundled Patreon access to me and to OmegaBot, which is the tool that I like to showcase at the start of every one of my streams. Nothing else gives you such a powerful at-a-glance sense of what your opponent's about. And of course, while anybody could use it for free to scout their opponent's last week rather, patrons can build out a custom report with any number of weeks. You get a downloadable HTML version with links that you can click that go right back into swugga.gg or Insight, further helping you drill down and save time on those specific questions you have when you're scouting. But now the offer has changed to you get bundled Patreon access to me and your choice of either OmegaBot or Hot Utils. And we'll say more about that in just a second. If you move on up to VIP Access Premium, that is the Double Bot bundle. Some have said the greatest value bundle in all of Swugga because it's $15 a month for a bundled Patreon access to me, to OmegaBot, and to the aforementioned Hot Utils, the number one tool for your mass mob management and loadout creation. No other tool allows you to move between your TW, Raid, Grand Arena, TB mods, all with just a couple clicks in a few seconds. You can remod your roster comprehensively like Fatal and TJ do. Use that powerful automation function. You can slice through mods, that you've been building up for weeks and months in seconds, to say nothing of the powerful TW functionality for your guild. Thank you so much to Argots, Arge, Big Ninja, Duckstab, Darth Link, Dark Hug, Brick Frack Paddywhack, General Milan, Ibenek, Kev, Hills, Quig, Saldag, Sir Boss, Sophus, The Lost Womp Rat, Wilco, and Zoltre. So yeah, we added some flexibility in that $10 a month tier. It's you pick a bot and Patreon access to me. But regardless, anybody who signs up for any of these teams is getting a great value, and I appreciate the support regardless. At the top of the heap here, Ingesters Club Elite, the one, the only Nomad's Reaper. This madman pops into stream from time to time and drops hundreds of subs, thousands of biddies, incredibly generous, and very impactful support over the years. Thank you so much, my man. And of course, last but never least, our special thanks. Come on, scroll down now. There it is. First, to Yoda Force, one of my original supporters from way back in the day, bought me the mic that I'm speaking to you on right now, and even though he's long since quit the game, we wish him well from the other side. To Mrs. T, my wife, thank you for all you do in the background, whether it's furnishing me with alcohol during my streams or just keeping our daughter from tearing the place apart while I'm distracted trying to be halfway decent at a phone game. And of course, to Dagger, TJ, Sasha Aisha, and Fatal, my co-hosts here on Plotting and Scheming. Gentlemen, it is always a pleasure and a privilege to record our show together. You guys make time every week from your busy work and family schedules to get our show done. Can't say how much I appreciate it because every week I'm picking up things from you guys. Hopefully the feeling is mutual from time to time, but regardless, our community gets a lot out of this show, and you guys are a huge value add to the conversation. Love what we're doing here. Wouldn't change a thing. Thank you guys so much. All right. We come back over to the main scene and make ready to leave. I'll be back live Wednesday night between 8 and 9 p.m. Eastern. Look for my announcement ping on Discord, and check the description here on this video. You'll find a link to my Discord if you're not already in the community, but get in to find out when I'm going live. And until then, it's been real. It's been awesome. It's been real awesome. Take care.